All right, so welcome to Scrapbook Live. I'm Megan Jax. Today is Friday, March 7th, and I have a fun little project today. You're going to hopefully be able to take this technique and use it in different ways with your layouts. It's cropping photos on a slant, and it really kind of stemmed from just how many sport layouts can I do. I have lots of them still to do. So this one was like just getting some action, some movement into the photos by cropping them on a slant. It just gives that, it just feels like things are kind of flowing when you do that. So in a sense, we're going to be creating like a border. You saw in the handout, the sample there, that it is basically creating a border with the photos. They're cropped. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do the second page for this layout. So I'm going to be basically repeating it, but kind of rearranging things on the page. Just as a hint or a suggestion, you'll want to have some cardboard, chipboard, that pressed cardboard, anything from like the matte packs or the cardstock. That would work really well. We're going to trim that down to a 4x6 and cut that to give us our template. And then you want to have photos that are like spare photos, duplicates, rejects, photos you can practice on. You're going to want to practice this and kind of just get a feel for it before you start cutting your photos. If you don't have any spare photos, just make sure you can reprint them if you accidentally make a mistake. So, and then I just have some cardstock and pretty much everything you see on the layout. I'm going to be just duplicating that again. You will need, oh, I forgot, a photo labeling pencil. You're going to want that to make those lines on your photos. And then you want to make sure you have a soft cloth to be able to remove that from your photos. Now, if you print your photos at home, if you print with 1 hour photos, you might want to check that your photo labeling pencil, like on an inconspicuous corner, go ahead and mark it on there and then just see if you can erase it or use that soft cloth to remove it. Different printing processes maybe handle that photo labeling pencil differently. We think a lot of photo labeling on the back side of it, but you can use it on the front, but you're going to want to make sure that that soft cloth will remove it. And you might need to use just a light touch with it instead of like a real hard. I might be pressing a little bit harder. One, I know it'll come off my photos, and two, I want you guys to be able to see the lines. Okay, I'm going to switch over here to my overhead camera and we will get going. All right, so what we've got, I've got my handout here. I have a link. If you're watching this live on Facebook, you'll see it in the description of the video. If you're watching this live or on YouTube later, there'll be a link in the description below, and that'll give you the handout, and there's all the directions here. In this direction, it mostly focuses on cropping the photos on the slant, but down here at the very bottom are all the details you'll need to be able to create this layout here. You can adjust the, you can do many adjustments to this. I mentioned that I cropped my photos to 3 inches tall by 6 inches wide. I left them at that, they were 4x6s. I left them at the 6 inches, but I cropped them down to 3 inches because I didn't want to take up a huge amount of space. But if you want to, you can do 4-inch by 6-inch and crop them at the 4 inches tall. That's fine. It just depends on your photos. The photos, one of the things I am going to talk about here is when you're picking your photos, for me, it worked well to do this because I had a lot of photos that were kind of far away. When I was taking these photos, we're playing on Cody plays lacrosse, and it's on they're playing on a half of uh, a soccer field. So, but he was a little bit of a distance away. And so I have what I'm looking for my photos, because I know I'm going to crop them down to be that 3 inches tall. I am looking for horizontal photos. That's going to work the best. Horizontal photos that I can crop them down. I can take some of that height off. If you feel like you can't, as I mentioned, you can leave it at 4 inches tall, but I want to mimic over here what I did. So I'm going to have to crop them down to 3 inches, 3 inches tall. And what I'm looking for is just nice kind of uniformity between everything here that I can crop. Like Cody is about the same size in all the photos. That's not super important, but I do want to feel like overall it takes up about the same amount of space in my photos. I'm going to set my photos aside for a second because the big thing I want to focus on first is we're going to work our way through the steps 1 through 3, yeah, 1, and then comes over here, really, I guess just step 1. We're going to make our template. That's the important part of today. So you're going to want to use a piece of chipboard, or this is the pressed cardboard that came probably with the cardstock in our matte packs that we used to have. There was a piece of cardstock in there, or a piece of the cardboard, but you want the pressed kind that just, you don't really want to have like the big poofy, like out of a cardboard box. I wouldn't recommend. I would use the pressed type. And then we are going to go ahead and cut this down to a 4x6. So I'm going to use my trimmer. You have to, if you're using your rotary trimmer, you will need to give it a couple of passes with your the blade, but it will work. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to trim this at 4 inches. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut it at 6. I want a 4x6. So here's my 4x6. Now, what I need to do is I'm going to put my my piece of my cardboard in here, and I'm going to put it in horizontal. So I've got the 4-inch side on the side, the 4 inches here, the 6 inches is coming across the top. I'm going to take this upper left-hand corner here, and I'm going to find the 4-inch line on my trimmer. It doesn't matter where on my trimmer, I'm just going to find it. I need to have that upper left corner at the 4-inch mark. And then I'm going to rotate it until the bottom left corner. I'm going to come over 3 of those lines. So I'm going to come over 3/4 of an inch. And if I come down from the top or I come up from the bottom, I will see I'm at 3¼ inch. What I'm looking for is I'm looking for a tilt that goes 3/4 of an inch. From top to bottom, I'm tilted 3/4 of an inch. So up here at the top, I'm at 4 inches. Down here at the bottom, I am at 3¼ inch. Now, the other thing you need to do is you got to make sure here that you have a part of your template is going to be cut. That's why we're doing the 6-inch wide. I could start this over at 3. I just need to make sure I have that 3/4 of an inch tilt. And then I'll go ahead and cut. And now I have my template made. You can use, you don't have to use both pieces. In fact, you'll see me working with just the smaller piece. If you want to tuck this away as kind of, like you have your spare template piece, these are actually the same cut. But what we'll be able to do when we're working with our template, our photos, we'll be able to take this piece and I'll just be able to flip it around to do both sides. So I only need one of the sides. So I'm just going to tuck this away as kind of like my spare. You can, of course, mess around with the angle. I did a 3/4 inch angle, I guess. That's how I tilted it by 3/4 of an inch from top to bottom. If you wanted a deeper angle, you could probably do a full inch. If you want a real deep angle, you can kind of keep playing around with it. It depends on your photos. I wanted to give myself that sense of movement without being too drastic. So I felt that 3/4 tilt was a good compromise in there, that you can see it, but it still felt that I could make it work with my photos. All right, I am going to switch over from my rotary trimmer to my photo trimmer to do these next steps, because I just really, really, really love the guillotine function of the photo trimmer. The guillotine meaning that it's blade on blade here, and it cuts, it's a friction cut rather than the rotary cut. I already showed you guys my photos. I've got them picked out. I need to bring these all down from 4 inches tall to 3 inches tall. And I'm going to roughly be taking probably, I don't know, maybe a 1/2 inch off the top and the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick. I'll be messing around with it a little bit. That's the other reason I love the guillotine style. It's just so quick to make these cuts. So what I've done here is I've cut this to 3¼ tall. I need to take it to 3½, or excuse me, to 3. I need to cut another 1/4 inch off. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at it. I've got room at the top and the bottom to cut that last 1/4 of an inch off, but I'm going to look at it and just say, where do I think it needs to come from? And here, in all honesty, it needs to come a little bit from the top and a little from the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and take 1/8 of an inch off the top and the bottom. I do that a lot when I'm cropping photos. If I'm taking big chunks off, sometimes I will just take a little bit here and a little bit there, giving myself still that I'm bigger than where I want to end up, and then I can just see where else do I need to pull that from. So I'm going to go ahead and cut trim here as well. And I have plenty of photos here to work with. I have 4, and I think I will actually need to only use 3 of them, but we'll see how this all comes together. One of them, you can see here, he's kind of out by himself, so I might be able to really narrow that in. I'm not sure yet, but I'm just working to get these cropped down to that 3.5 or to 3 inches tall. A little too carried away there. And the last photo here, just dialing it in. I love the guillotines. You can really just cut microscopic bits off. It's so easy, like, oh, we just need to shave off that 1/8 of an inch. No problem at all with the guillotine style, the the photo trimmer. So there we go. All of my photos, you can see here, are all cut to 3 inches tall. Now it's time to grab your photo labeling pencil and your template that you made. And the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to be using the lower edge, the lower lip of my trimmer. You can see here I've got kind of that lip there. And that's going to actually become my guide. I can make sure that I have my photo on here nice and tight against the bottom. And then I can grab my template and I can kind of move it around. And I can figure out, where do I want to go? Do I want this kid all the way in here? My kid's clear right here and he's shooting on the goal. So I'm going to go ahead. I would recommend here, when you're doing this, is that you will want to be generous with your cropping when you're first doing it. It takes a little bit of finagling to get the pieces to fit in here just right. You can see I have 3 photos that are cropped about the same width, but these photos here I'm going to have to play around a little bit with. So I'm going to go ahead, my photo labeling pencil, and I'm going to mark it. I'm going to go ahead and keep that player all the way in there. You see I've marked. Now what I'll do is I'll grab my template and I'm going to rotate it 180 degrees. And I'm going to, I think that's going to be good. So there I've got both sides marked. Now what I'll do is I'll come into my photo trimmer and I'm going to line up that line on my trimmer where it will cut, and I'll go ahead and slice, and then I'll do the reverse, the other opposite side. So there, we've made a parallelogram. I was thinking, I was tried so hard, like, what can I call this? Like, I mean, cropping photos onto slant seems kind of weird. The word slant's weird if you ask me, but it works. We made little parallelograms. And I can just keep doing that with my photos. Now, one thing to keep in mind here, when you are creating this, if I had wanted to create the layout to go all the way across, if I had wanted my border or my photos to come all the way across here, you really do want to think on a 24-inch span, because ultimately what you might do is you will work to have your photos, and what I might say is like, oh, let me crop this photo a little bit longer so that I can use some of the blank area on the left side to help me cross the page into one long layout, one long border. I'm not going to do that because I've already kind of committed to like this lower, and I'm going to move the next one's going to be at the top. So they will be broken up. But that is something to think about. If you want to have almost like a slanted film reel, you could come all the way across, but do your pieces as like 1 24-inch strip, and then you'll just cut along that 12-inch piece once you have all your pieces together. So this next picture, this next one of Cody is a little bit narrower. I'm going to cut it. I'm still going to be generous with it. And the reason is I can easily crop it narrower if I need to. I can not easily add back if I need to. So when you're messing around with it, give yourself room to crop it narrower if you need to. Because when you start to lay your photos out, you will see like, oh yeah, I could take 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 inch off of this one and it'll be just fine. And you just keep working. Now, the one thing to consider is I have my photos all slanting from kind of like the lower left to the upper right. They kind of have that forward slant. In my opinion, when you're doing horizontal photos, you could probably go either direction. I kind of like the leaning forward. I think it just gives that, you're leaning into the photo or into the layout. Uh, if you do this as a vertical, that may be the question is, how can I do this as a vertical border? I have vertical photos I want to do this with. Well, let's rotate it and see what that looks like. It still looks pretty nice. The one thing I would probably do though, if I was doing a photo, if I was doing a layout with vertical photos, I would probably try to crop them leading upward. Here, it kind of looks like it can give the illusion when you've cropped it downward that people are going to just fall out of the photo onto your page. But if I crop them upwards, let's see. Well, no, it's all going to be, I mean, you can kind of imagine like this way is coming in. If they were to be on the other side, they're coming more upward. It's just something to think about. If you do have vertical photos, you might need to play around with them just a little bit more and just experiment. So definitely use spare photos and just kind of get a feel for how you like it. But that would probably be the one thing I would recommend is I would probably cut them so that they were leading upward rather than downward into your photo, into your layout. All right, so I'm gonna put these on here, get the rest of my markings done, and then we'll show you how you kind of have to, wheedle them into shape, I guess. I don't know how to describe it, where you just you've got to get them, figured out where you want them in there. Just a reminder, keep your scraps. You never know that we'll use those at the beginning and the end. You'll need those pieces if you want to fill in that space. You could be like me and go hunting back through your garbage looking for them, or you could just hold on to them. So just kind of put them up out of your way. But here we can start to see. So you can see here, the way my photos are going is I'm kind of short. Even if I were to come in here, if I'm looking to span a 12-inch section, I kind of need, because I've got this picture here, this next one, I like that he's getting ready to run around the back side of the goal. So what I need to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut this one, and I'm going to try, we'll see here. I hate to cut the goalie that way, but we're going to see. I don't think, because that's the one challenge here, is I don't think that I can cut that to really get the goalie in there well, but maybe it'll work out. I'm coming really just over right to the very edge of my photo down here in the corner. I'm going to try to keep as much of that goalie as I can. I just want it to be shown that that's where the goalie is, that that's who that player is. He's not just a random person standing there. So now obviously I've got the situation where I've got too much width here, too much width going on. So now the question is where do I want to keep all 4 photos? Do I want to try for all 4? And I kind of think I do. So my options are, I'm going to tighten up this photo a little bit. I can come in a little bit more off of this side here. I think I could actually come off a little bit on both sides. One thing to keep in mind when you're cropping your photos. Okay, so if you have a person here, like he's looking off to this direction, I don't want to crop this super close. I want to give him plenty of space. That's where his eyes are gazing. I have some space. I can come over here. I want to keep his full across his stick and the head all the way in the photo. I can trim a little on this side, but because he's gazing off to this direction, I want to still leave space over here. I'm not going to come in and crop clear up to him. Got to give his eyes room to move, to look at something. So that's just kind of things to keep in mind when you're cropping. If they're gazing a certain direction, make sure you leave space for them to be looking. So I'm going to be taking about another 1/2 inch off this photo. And then I can take off a little bit on this photo over here. Now you can probably, if you're comfortable, you can try to come in here and line up one edge on your trimmer. And then that should give you the parallel, because these 2 slanted lines are actually parallel to each other. So if you don't want to use your template, you could try that instead. I'm going to go ahead and give that a whirl and see what I think, because that's about how much I need to take off, is about the 1/4 inch. Now I won't do it on the other side because I think I'm in between. I don't see a solid line that I can come into, and I just don't want to test that, but we'll leave that as is. And I think I'm going to come in here. I'm just nibbling off pieces now. This is the part it gets a little, you got to finagle it. You got to work to try to get your things in here. I'm gonna have to cut the goalie out. Sorry, bud. You're gonna get whacked. And I'm still kind of tight. Trying to squeeze 4 photos in here is probably a little ambitious. I probably should have just stuck with 3. But it gives you guys time to catch up, finagle around. How many of you are actually giving this a shot right now? Or will you wait until later? I guess I should ask that more often. Like, how many of you are cropping with me? Or how many of you are going to wait and work on this later? Maybe this weekend? Maybe you're just going to file it away as a technique you can try when you have the right photos. All right. At this point, I think I'm good. I'm going to start getting, I'm going to cut a piece of the cardstock to go behind it, because I kind of want to start mounting it, and that will let me see how much more I need to trim. All right. Oh, Dawn says she's trying it. She messed up one, so now she's going to try it on some extras. Yeah, the first time I did it, I did try it with, I was using leftover photos from another game that I had done. So, oh, Patty's using verticals and she likes the way it turned out. So Patty, you got to make sure you share that with us in the one of the groups so we can see what it looks like. All right, so I need to go ahead and cut that, basically that mat that's going to go under those. So I mentioned in here in the layout is step number 5. We're going to trim a piece of cardstock about 1/2 inch taller than our photos themselves. So I need to trim this to 3.5. So it's going to be 3.5 by 12. Now, navy is a little bit bigger than 12 inches. So what I'm gonna do is come over here to 12 inches and I'm gonna go ahead and slice off. And I am slicing like a microscopic bit. I'm gonna take my background paper and I'm just gonna move it to the side for right now, just get it out of my way. One of the things I am gonna do on here is I am going to adhere this to my mat because I don't want it moving around. I just don't. It annoys me when it just slides all over the place. That's something, there we go. So now it won't move. And now when I'm placing my photos on here, I can move them around without moving that background piece. That's what annoys me. So now I'm really just looking to get these pieces put into place. And I'm a little too narrow. You can see I've got like a little too much. I have about, not quite a quarter of an inch space between my photos here, and I'm real narrow. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tighten these up a little bit more. I'm gonna crop a little bit more off, especially this photo I think I can take down. This is where the guillotine really shines, is being able to really come in there and shave off those bits. I'm real close. I'm starting to see a nice size gap, but I need to see a little bit more. And this is where I mentioned it takes a little bit of patience to get the positioning the way you want it. I'm going to take a little bit off, I think this one here. Actually, I'm going to do it off of this one here because it's pretty wide still. So I'm going to go ahead and try it off of the larger one. And I need to use my template. When you're dialing it in, when you're working to get it dialed into that final bit, you don't want to take too much off of each one. Like I'm going for a quarter of an inch here, which I might regret. So I'm going to bring it back a little bit. Okay, I think I am going to be good. I think I'm good. I think when I look at this, it looks like my pieces here are all gonna be about the same as they are over here. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go ahead and start putting these in place. I am half an inch taller overall than my photos. So I need about a quarter inch at the top and a quarter inch at the bottom. Repo tape is gonna be your friend. If you want to come in with your T-square, that can be really helpful to make sure that you're going to stay an even spacing. You're going to keep a nice straight line across the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my T-square. I'm not putting a ton of pressure on here, just enough to get the photos kind of in place. That way, if I do have to pull them up, I'm not trying to overcome too much on the adhesive. And you just kind of work it into place, work it into the position, get that spacing what you want. If you want, you can place your outside pieces first. So I would place this piece and then I would come over here using my T-square to make sure I keep everything nice and spaced there. And I'd place my outside one. And then I can kind of work these two in the middle. Oh, Teresa's saying that her high school, when they were the Cobras and they were black and orange. And I do agree that would be like very, very Halloweenish all year round. My niece went to school in Indiana and they were I cannot remember their name, but I know they were black and orange. I remember seeing her. She played basketball and softball and some other sports. I just remember seeing her uniforms were the black and the orange, which is a very striking combination. Here we go. Okay. They're maybe a little further apart than I would like. I am trying to get some uniformity between the distances simply because I have it over on this side. If you're doing a single page, doesn't matter so much. If you're doing, you want to have the continuity between the uniformness between the two sides, it can be helpful. And if I need to, I'm just pulling out my outside pieces in a little bit, because what I'll be able to do now, I've got those pieces into place. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back through my scraps and I'm going to find, I don't want to use, like, this is pretty much one of the pieces that was probably cut off. I'm not going to use that one there. I'm going to find another one. These are all pretty similar, but I want to make sure I'm finding one that is definitely different. And this one is, I can see that the grass carries up a lot higher, so that's going to be a good option. I'm going to grab some adhesive and I'm going to put adhesive along this edge, the entire slanted edge there, because it's ultimately going to get trimmed off and it's going to be just a real narrow piece there. I didn't give myself a good amount of room. Probably should have moved my photos in a little bit more. As you do this technique once or twice, you'll kind of get the hang of that, how that works. And that one will go over on that side. There we go. Lift it up. So what I need to do is I need to trim. But this is where I mentioned, if you are doing a full two borders right next to each other, this is where you would have the you'd have that full photo spanning across, and you could actually just keep it fluid going from one side to the other. And maybe you would actually have a long photo here that would come clear across into the other border, and it would just be a nice continuous border all the way across your layout. Heather's mentioning that her school used to be the Indians, and they changed their name to the Black Bears. But that was what my niece, they were the Indians. I don't know if they've changed their names. But I'm pretty certain they were the Indians. And that was, now that I'm thinking about it, I remember their mascot being a Native American. All right. So here we go. Just gonna trim it off. Do the same thing on the other side. And there you go. You can see I've got some real thin pieces there on the outside edge, but it kind of just finishes it off. It definitely has a different look if you don't include those wedges on the outside edge. So you can try it out, see what you think. You could fill it in with cardstock or designer paper. That could be the other thing you could incorporate into these bits or into this technique, is you could come in with some thin, like 1 inch, ½ inch cut pieces that would be on the angle in there. And that might be a fun technique to kind of just get little pillars of different colors or patterns of cardstocks. All right, so now it's kind of time to start putting our layout together. I'm going to put, this is going to be my left page that I've already done. Let's see if I can find, well, I don't know where my other cutting mat is. So over here is going to be my right page. So I'll go ahead and I'm going to tack this down too, just because it's much easier when I'm laying things out that my background doesn't move anywhere. All right, so I know this is going to go here at the top, but I need to cut that big, the big mat here, the big cardstock mat. And I'm going to be able to still cut it out of my piece of navy cardstock. I'm going to trim this to 6 inches. So 6 by 12. I am a bit of a creature of habit. If, I like to just sometimes, use the same elements, but just kind of put them on the page differently. So I'm going to kind of repeat this concept. We're just going to do it over here more like upside down, or Yeah, we're going to put the border at the top instead of at the bottom. So there we go. This piece is going to sit, and I'm still going to put it over here. It's about 1/4 of an inch from the outside edge. I'll still put it there. My photo strip up here is going to sit about 1/2 an inch from the top. My outside edge of my line here is going to be just about 1/4 of an inch. I could actually start putting these pieces in place. I don't need to dry fit. I know how this is going to look when it's all done. The one thing you want to check is make your background is the same. And I'm going to rotate my paper around because then my background will definitely be the same. The pattern is a little bit, they're obviously going the way, but I can see up here that I've started with more of that light chevron at the top, which is what it happened over here. So now that'll carry nice and continuous across the top, though it's going to be covered up by my border, but it's all good. I will go ahead and use some regular adhesive to put this piece of cardstock in. And it's about like a 1/4 of an inch from the outside edge. Probably should, yeah, my paper's on. I didn't do a great job of lining up my paper, but I'm pretty good. There we go. This piece is going to be 1/2 an inch from the top. 1/2 an inch from the top is going to give me that space to be able to add in that accent border, those thin bits there. So I'm 1/2 inch from the top. Yeah, I gobbled up every bit of tonal blue type paper that I can find. I always like kind of hoard it because so far Cody's 2 lacrosse teams have been blue is their main color. Actually, the same kind of this blue color here. Though he did make a. I'm cutting this to 1/4 of an inch. I need 2 1/4 inch strips to put one at the top and one at the bottom. So that's what I'm going to cut now, 1/4 inch strips. Cody made a travel lacrosse team, so he tried out for that and made the team. So we're very excited for him. And their colors are black and red and gray, which is hilarious because that's like the color of my kids' high school and my son's college. However, Cody's baseball team for Little League is, well, they're all kind of like the D-backs because the D-backs donate their jerseys, but they're teal and black and purple, which I am very excited about. Okay, making sure that my thin strips are about the same size and they're going to sit at the top and the bottom. So it gives that illusion of a double mat, just bringing in that accent color, which I thought was a lot of fun. And then I will need to I have to go back through my photos. And I think actually looking at this, I feel like my strips of paper are a little thick. I'm going to go a little bit shy of 1/4 of an inch. I could just feel like I could notice that they were just a little bit too thick. So I'm going to cut another pair of them. They'll be just shy of that 1/4 inch. If you want to do 1/4 inch, that's fine. The reason I needed to narrow mine down is so they would match my other side just a little bit better. Yeah, so Heather's commenting about, it's a challenge to try to get all the team colors all the time. It is, sometimes it's hard to know. Like I don't have a lot of purple stuff because I don't have just a lot of need for purple. So, but I do keep some purple because the Diamondbacks have purple as like one of their alternate jersey options. So, and I do like purple. So I keep that around. And black, of course, is easy to have. I was actually very excited about the tonal gradients that they had, black and gray. Very, very fun there. But it can be, I have learned though with the sports, that for me has been the easiest way because we don't have, Creative Memories doesn't have a huge variety of sport options. And for what it's worth, I'm okay with that to a certain extent if I've got sport photos. And so I don't need a lot of lacrosse. I did pick up, this was a metal die. I bought a sport kit of metal dies, and so I can do basketball, I can do baseball, I can do lacrosse, soccer, tennis. There's like tennis rackets and lacrosse sticks and things like that. So I felt that would be very useful for me. So it was a very good investment. And I can make all the little lacrosse sticks that I want to in all the little colors I want, and I don't have to worry about. I can do whatever I need. So here, I now need to go ahead and pick out some other photos that I can include here. That'll be the 3.5 by 5.5. Is that what I said? Yeah, 3.5 by 5.5. I do have room here for a vertical photo if I want. I could come in here and matte if I had like a really favorite vertical photo. And actually what I might do here is I might go back through my photos that I took and look for one that I can print where I can make Cody a little bit bigger. So it's a more dominant photo. And that's probably what I'm gonna do to kind of give myself a little bit of difference between the two sides of the layout. So what I'll probably do is come in here and cut a, oh, I don't know, whether 4.5 by 6.5, and then I might give it a little bit of a the light blue treatment in there too. So let me find, my photos are maybe not the greatest from, so I'm gonna trim this down to, it needs to be 3.5 by 5.5. One where he's doing the face off, or actually they're just digging into the ground. He plays, the lacrosse that he plays, they're just so, I don't want to say violent, but they all go after the ball in kind of a crazy manner. If you ever have a chance to watch youth lacrosse, it is so different than watching even high schoolers play, where they're able to toss the ball and make their passes. The ball at his level ends up on the ground a lot. And then there is kind of the skirmish between the players to get the ball and get it put back in play. But they're learning. It's kind of like when you're watching baseball and all the little, when you're watching T-ball and all the kids are running after the ball. There's no plays being made. You're just lucky if they get the ball and throw it to somebody. Lacrosse is kind of that way. They're learning. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and grab another sheet of navy cardstock. And I'm going to cut a 4.5 by 6.5. If you have a matte pack that maybe matches your paper, you could definitely use a matte here. I don't have a matte pack that matches. So I'm going to just go ahead and cut a 4.5 by 6.5. Four and a half by 6.5. And you can see that's going to sit in here like such. Let me put these photos down. And I also might give myself some flexibility here to, this was just the first day of the season, the first set of games. He plays 2 games every Saturday. And this was the first set of games. And so will I really don't have a good spot to add journaling. What I might be able to do is, depending on here, is I might be able to peekaboo pocket this. I will make sure I have a 4 by 6 that I can peekaboo pocket and open up and maybe have a few more photos, because as you can see, I've got a lot of them still that I can include in there. I'll peekaboo pocket, it can open up. The one thing that is nice, if I wanted to leave this open sky here at the top, I could use stickers to come in here with and put either the title, the name of the team. I could, first games, something like that. If I want to use that open sky as kind of just a blank space to add stickers for a title, that works out really well. But I think what I'm going to do instead is, if I can find, I need to find, oh, there it is. The blue photo, so I am using the two-tone blue paper because this blue really matches their uniforms. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this to, I'm going to trim it to 4x6. I think ultimately what I'll do is I will probably trim my photo that I'll put on the page a little bit smaller to kind of keep those same margins, the same borders, about that 1/4 of an inch. So I'll probably put a 3.5 by 5.5 inch photo, which maybe I can just crop this one down. In fact, I will do that. I'm going to go ahead and crop this photo down to 3.5 by 5.5 because I can do that. I have plenty of space here. 3.5 by 5.5. And this is where, as again, I'm looking at the photo determining where do I need to make additional cropping. I've cropped a 1/4 inch already. I still need to crop another 1/4 inch, but where do I want to do it? He's looking off that direction. His stick ends right here. I've got an ump right, or a referee right here. I'm gonna trim a little off over here, but I'm probably still gonna come back in and I wanna give him room here to throw the ball and to look. That's the direction of action in this photo. So I'm gonna trim off just a little bit here and the rest of it to get to that 3.5 on the other side. But I'm still defaulting to giving him plenty of space to where he's throwing and looking. Kind of when you're thinking about cropping your photos and you're trying to keep in mind, where do I need to keep that open space? You want to keep it the direction they're looking, the direction they're running, the direction that they're going to throw a ball. You don't necessarily need all the open space behind them. So go ahead and get these put on here. Yeah, I think that's going to look really, really sharp there. And what I'll be able to do, because this blue mat is 4x6, I can still I could put this whole thing in the peekaboo pocket, and I'll be able to open it up. I can have some more photos in here, and I can have a whole gob of journaling. Probably what I will do for journaling here is, I've been wanting to do this, but I think I'm going to type it up and print it off on a 4x6 or something that I know I can cut down, so I can really talk about, you know, very excited to start a new lacrosse, how this game went. It was his first time playing with this team. Lots of, you know, when you're new with a team, they do things differently. We laughed because he was waiting to hear some verbal cues on taking shots on goal, because that's how we played in Washington. They had to make so many passes before they could take a shot on goal. And so he was like waiting to hear. He didn't know. And so it was pretty funny. Once we figured out that, like, he didn't know, like, oh, you can go ahead and take, you know, the shot on goal. We've clarified with coach the rules. So it's pretty funny. But he's adapted. So I'm not going to put any adhesive on this. I'm just going to set it on here for right now. But you get the idea. Once I drop those into the layout, it will work there. So there we go. We got lots of photos on here, some fun action going on with those slanted photos. Have some more action with the peekaboo pocket. Yeah, I'm really excited about this. Fun way to put together. Works great for sports layouts where you want to convey that action, but you can use it in many different ways. I'm sure we're going to see all sorts of ideas shared into the Scrapbooking with Meggan. Just use the hashtag. It's on the bottom of your sheet. I did start including the year because we are running into situations where you're typing in, you know, 0214, and there's different layouts that are coming up because I've been doing this now for a couple of years. So we needed to add all 4 of those. So I cannot wait to see what you guys create. Mary says she loves it. She doesn't think it's gonna be too difficult, and I hope it's not. Practice with your extra photos, your rejects, or just practice with some scrap pieces of paper so that you can get an idea of how it works, so that you aren't cutting your pretty photos. And maybe the photos that you love the most, you may actually want to keep those as the larger photos in the layout. And down at the bottom is where you can kind of use those small photos, especially photos where the people in them are a little bit further away, because you can crop them down and give some multiples in there without necessarily just cropping things down to 3x3s or 3x2s or whatever. Gives a little bit more of a fun technique with it. All right. So that's what I have for you guys this week. I will be back next week on the 14th with another project. I've got a couple different things in mind. I'm not sure what we're going to do yet. That is the day that the virtual crop starts for Creative Memories. On Saturday the 15th, I have baseball, Little League. It's the first day of Little League, and I have to go work the raffle. I have to go sell raffle tickets in the morning. So won't be able to do the virtual crop on the Saturday, but I will be doing Scrapbook Live on Friday the 14th. So be ready for that next week. I will get that project shared hopefully by Monday. And we do have a product launch for Creative Memories coming up on Monday. The On the Mend collection. They also have the 8x8 limited edition albums are coming out. So they have 4 really pretty different album colors, with some of them having some detailed design in there. They have an 8x8 paper buffet that has some of our designer papers already cut down to 8x8 size. So you can dive right in onto your 8x8 projects. And if you buy so many packs, I think it's 8 packs of the 8x8 paper, you can get what they're calling the Ain't It Great, I guess, peekaboo pocket set. So there's 8x8 peekaboo pockets plus those 4x8 peekaboo pockets, which are a lot of fun. And just kind of as a FYI, if you're on the Creative Memories website and you notice that a few products seem to have gone up in price even after our last product increase, just note Creative Memories today conveyed to advisors, or let us know, that they are doing what some products are subject to tariffs because they are coming in from China. Not all of our products are from China. We have products that are made in the US. We have products, our adhesives come from Denmark. Our blue and white border punches come from Taiwan. So there's multiple places that Creative Memories does source their products. However, the products are coming in from China. They are now subject to new tariffs, and Creative Memories, as much as they would love to be able to absorb all that, they just can't. And so they have applied temporary price increases. As long as the tariffs are in place, those price increases will be there. And so just so you know, if you see some products that have those price increases, that's what it's from. So just a heads up on that. They said it was about 8.5% on select products. So I will try to share what that product list is, but you'll notice it on the website. It's going to be like the Border Maker cartridges, I think, are now up to like 21, 25 or something like that. So just a few things, but our cardstock, our paper, some embellishments will go up, but our matte packs should stay the same. So some of those core products that you all still love, adhesives, those didn't see a price increase at all. So, all right, that's all the fun I have for you guys today. I hope you have a wonderful weekend that's full of scrap happy activities, whether you're scrapbooking or you're out there making memories that you're going to scrapbook later. I look forward to being able to see all the layouts you create and share. All right, thanks for watching. I will see you all soon.